This is To Catch a Con Man, Season 2, In the Victim's Voices. I will take you on another fascinating journey, but this time you will hear from other men and women that, like me, have fallen prey to the various cons, scams, and deceits by one of the most prolific and successful con artists to live and operate in the Midwest. You know him as Ricky Dugo.
Could $100,000 sustain my life? It couldn't even come close. So listen to me. If I was going to be in some sort of con, scam, conniving thing, it'd be for millions. It wouldn't be for $100,000.
To Catch a Con Man is brought to you by Studio 847 in Long Grove, Illinois. Listener discretion is advised, as some of this programming contains language and content that might be offensive to some listeners.
Join me on this adventure to catch a con man. This is Adam Albin. Welcome back, and thank you for the continued love and support. On the last episode, we heard part one of Britt'ss interview, a victim from the Lake of the Ozarks that ended up being conned out of $30,000. Another investigation is opened by the Missouri Attorney General, yet nothing comes out of it, as another miss by law enforcement leaves many of the victims in the Lake of the Ozarks holding the bag and without any form of justice. Coming up next, part two of Britt'ss amazing story. Did you have any conversations where you realized that other people had been scammed, conned, defrauded by Rick Dugo?
Yeah, I don't know who it was with. It was not, Russell did not tell me. I don't think Russell's the one that told me at first that he gave Rick money. Somebody else might have, and I just didn't. And then there's a couple other younger guys maybe that worked with Russell or did the same thing. Maybe they were tattoo artists. They gave Rick a little money, and I started learning about them. Well, I think Russell, I don't remember, he made that post. What year did he make that post? 18?
No, in 2017, in the late summer of 2017, he posted. And we'll kind of explain this. Russell James Fisk, a very famous tattoo artist in Lake of the Ozarks and in Kansas City, posted on Facebook all about losing money to Ricky Dugo, and that within 48 hours of his post, something like 18 people had reached out to him, and he had accumulated a total of over $2,043,500 in losses from people that reached out to Russell James. He actually ended up taking that post down. So you knew Russell James, correct?
I did, yes.
Yeah.
I knew him from the lake. Like, we weren't real good friends. We were acquaintances. We knew each other. The tattoo shop he worked for here, I knew the owner, fairly well. So me and Russell got to know each other, and then he moved to Kansas City to start his own place. And I think he called me. It might have been right before or after that post went up, and told me that, Rick got money from him, and then the other two guys. And then he introduced me, or asked if he could get my number. Maybe that's how it was. I don't remember, to a guy named Faraz. And then he called me, and I found out that, I think I texted Rick when he moved into Faraz's house. He rented his house.
Correct.
And I was like, dude, you're going to move into, I don't know how much the house is worth. I just like, you're going to move into $1 million house, and you're not going to give me my goddamn money? And I don't remember what his excuse was, what happened about that. But I already knew that Rick, because Faraz told me, I think Faraz sent me a voicemail. Yeah, like a voicemail on his phone, so I could confirm whose voice that was, because Rick claimed to be Jeff Klein. So this is when I started figuring out that he actually took quite a bit of money and did a bunch of shady shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, I knew my money was, by then I already knew it was gone.
Right.
I said, it's gone.
Right.
So, and I think Faraz sent me that. I listened to it. I called Faraz back. He goes, who is that? I said, that's Rick Dugo. He goes, that's not Jeff Klein. I was like, no, it's not Jeff Klein.
Yeah, so the way
I had met Jeff Klein, too, here at the lake.
Oh, you've met the real Jeff Klein.
I have.
Was that via Rick as well?
With Rick Dugo. He introduced me to him.
Fuck. Yeah, then that guy's totally in on it as well.
I didn't. The guy was kind of squirrely the first time I met him. I don't know.
I've heard.
They seem to be pretty chummy.
I've heard he's very squirrely. I don't want to go into Jeff Klein, but from what I've heard, he's very squirrely. But that's interesting that he's hanging out with Rick right after he's hanging out with Rick at the lake with you, or with, bringing him around. He ends up in 2016, that summer, signing a 2-year lease on Faraz's house in Vernon Hills, using a rental application that's in Jeff Klein's name, as we all know now. But it's all bullshit. It's all been forged with, Dugo information on a Jeff Klein lease. So, the way that Faraz found you is Faraz ended up doing his own due diligence while all this is kind of going on in the background. Somehow he finds Russell's original post. Somehow he finds Russell. He actually had some conversations with Russell in about the March-April timeframe of 2018. And then, from what I've heard, that's how you and Faraz started talking. And then eventually, when Faraz found me, he told me right off the bat, him and I had a 2-hour conversation. He said, you need to call Britt from Lake of the Ozarks. He's a victim as well. So I remember talking to you in that first week of my investigation, my amateurish investigation. So, I mean, after you're going back and forth with Faraz, you're confirming that the voicemail is Ricky Dugo. I mean, now you've got a lot of validation, right? You've got Russell's post. Are people talking about this at the lake? What's going on? I mean, because
a few of them are. I mean, there's some guys' performance, and they were over him. He was a dipshit. I think you'd have to ask them, but I think he owed them a bunch of money. I think they did the work on his boat. He didn't pay them, so they might have put that boat back in the shop, and they weren't giving it back to Rick till he paid what it was like $80,000, I thought. Yeah, maybe.
I'd heard that.
So I don't know if that's true or not, but even those, they got their money. I think Rick paid him. He got his boat back, so obviously they wouldn't have given it back. They would have paid him. So obviously they paid him, and I think they were just done with him. They were like, wash their hands, get your shit out of here. That's probably why I had to go help load the boat. They were probably like, get your shit out of here, don't ever come back, I'm guessing.
So that's probably why he takes the boat back to Chicago.
I would say so, yeah.
Yeah, because now it's, kind of out there. That's kind of like what I always wonder, like at some point, right? Like the jig is up. Like people are starting to talk. There's obviously
Right.
weird things going around. At some point, you got to go home with your tail between your legs. It's just a matter of time, right? So
Right.
let's go back, to Russell James, his post. I mean, there were a lot of people that hopped on that post. I've never seen anything other than the original post. I didn't see who else was commenting. But there's a piece of this that I actually want to stop this part of the conversation. I want to ask you something, Britt. Did Rick and Shannon, after Shannon had that baby, did they ask you to be something like a godparent?
Yeah. Yeah, he did.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
He was so sincere. This idiot. He was so sincere when he asked me. He was like, it would honor me if you and Natalie, my wife, would be their godparent. And I'm like, are you serious? And he's like, yeah, I would. At this time, I knew I was getting nothing. So it was almost like I would just agree, and I would just always just ask. It was amusing to me. It started becoming, I knew I was out, so I got to get something for my money. You know what I mean? So I started listening to yes, he asked me to be a godparent to his daughter. And I hung up the phone and just laughing. I was like, Rick isn't fucking kidding me.
right. I mean, so that takes some serious balls. I mean, he's ripped you off for $30,000, and yet he wants you to be the godparent. Do you think that was part of the con? Is that part of him?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, how sick is that, dude? I mean,
His brain's fucking warped.
it's so sick. Yeah.
Yeah, it is. I mean, I think me and him already had screaming matches by then. I mean, you know what I mean? Arguing with each other about this money. And after that, he asked me to be his daughter's godparent. I mean, like a stream, like, fuck you. If I ever see you again kind of shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah, if you ever come down this way, I'll kill you. You know, but hey.
Come back down this way, I'll fucking kill you. You'll never step foot in another bar here. I know a few of my friends own bars here at the lake. Good friends. And I told him, if you ever step foot back in this lake, I'll know you're here, and I'm going to come fucking find you. And I did. I'm not a big guy. I mean, Rick, what is Rick? 6'2",
Yeah,
6'3",
yeah,
250 pounds.
easily. Yeah.
So, I mean, what am I doing? I'm going to break his fucking knees so I can even beat him up. But I was so fucking mad.
Yeah.
And I was in a bar one night after, I think the night, maybe I was on the phone screaming at him. And he was screaming at me. And maybe we walked into another bar with a bunch of buddies, and one of them owns one of the bars here at the lake. And he sees a guy named John in the back of the bar. And he come and grabbed me. He goes, is that guy's buddy right there? And I was like, yeah. He goes, you want to go get him? I'm like, for what? He goes, well, that's his buddy. Did he rip you off? I'm like, I don't actually know if he's his buddy. And like, it's so hard to tell who's his friend and who's his victim. So I don't know what to say to that guy. So finally, I walked back there and talked to him. And I'm like, aren't you John? I think they called him John Baja. And he's like, yeah. I'm like, where's your buddy Rick? And he said, he's not my buddy. I mean, it sure did seem like your fucking buddy. The whole summer, like when because he was around too every once in a while. But I think maybe he might have got ripped off by Rick too. I don't know. He never did say nothing to me about it. He just said Rick wasn't his buddy.
Wow.
So even after all that, screaming, cussing, still asked me to be a godparent. This is shit. So I would just entertain it. I had to. Hey, did you get some money? No, my kid was in a bus accident. I'm in the hospital with my son. I'm like, fucking, are you serious?
It's sick. It's absolutely sick. All right, so, I mean, his excuses are pretty wild, and you know, especially when you're distant, when you're not in front of him, or you don't have, I think when he doesn't have to worry that you're going to pop over, he's going to run into you at Uncle Julio's, like while he's eating fajitas, you know, I think he can make these elaborate excuses because there's no way to fact check him.
Yeah.
But, I mean...
I'll tell you, the worst... It wasn't... I think his mom did actually pass away during all this.
She did.
Okay. Well, that's how he was going to pay me one time. She passed away, and she had... I don't know if she worked, got some retirement, got some insurance, something. And I was like, dude, your fucking mom did not pass away. He sent me the letter of her passing away, or how he was going to get this insurance thing. He was going to get some money and pay me. So I was just like, okay, where's your mom? I want to send flowers. And he told me. I called the funeral home. And I was asked, I think he told me her name. I don't remember. I called the funeral home and asked them if she was there, I'd like to send flowers. And they acted weird and kind of got off the phone. It wasn't 3 minutes later, my phone rang. And Dugo said, did you call the funeral home? I was like, yeah, I called the funeral home. Why? I was like, I was going to send your mom some flowers. I was like, how did you fucking know I called the funeral home? It was weird. Like, I don't know. They called and told him, I guess.
That's weird, man.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, obviously, you know, all these things are going on. You know, he's lying on top of lies on top of lies. You're obviously just, you're kind of playing along, right? I think you said it best. Like, at this point, you're like trying to get your money's worth, you know?
Yeah.
He's not coming back to Lake of the Ozarks. Russell's blown him up on social media. You've talked to Faraz.
I felt horrible, dude. When Russell got shot, I had actually talked to him the day before, because I was gonna have Russell do some work on my arm, a tattoo. So we had talked about it, and it was like the day before what happened to him happened. So, and he had posted that about Dugo. Well, me and Faraz had started talking, and I think Faraz called me to ask something, and I felt so bad. I was like, dude, I don't know. Russell got shot, and Faraz freaked out. Because I think Faraz thought Dugo was in the mafia or something. And he goes, well, what's going to happen to me? Did Dugo do it? I'm like, dude, I have no idea. I mean, I don't know. But it's weird that Russell posted this about Dugo, and now somebody shot him. So I felt bad that I think I freaked Faraz out, because he was like, well, shit, I don't want nothing to do with him. I mean, would he come to California? I'm like, I have no idea. I don't know what he would do if he did something like that. Because Rick was always paranoid about somebody talking bad about it. Always trying to figure out who it was, what happened, who said it, where'd it come from. I'll fix it. You know what I mean?
I do. I mean, if you don't do bad things, people won't talk shit about you, right? If you're worried about people talking shit about you, you've probably done some bad things. I mean, it's like basic cause and effect here, brother. I'm going to just touch on Russell James Fisk, his murder. The timing of that is crazy because, Faraz is in that beginning stage of that eviction. I think he had talked to Russell. Russell had said verbally he thought that Rick was, he liked to tell people he was connected to the mafia. And so I think Faraz was a little scared. But then what happened to Russell, it's a very sad story about him being shot and killed in Kansas City by a crazy person. It was misconstrued at the time. I think when you told him, there wasn't enough facts or details. It was completely unrelated to Ricky Dugo. It was a bizarre moment in time where an outsider looking in like Firas could easily assume that this was at the hands of Ricky Dugo, and he was scared. Firas told me he was scared. He told me he locked all the doors to his house, told his wife, there's a chance somebody's coming for us. I mean, I've heard it in his voice. He was worried. But
yeah, he was worried when he talked to me.
Yeah, and that whole story, that whole tragedy, it elevated Rick's, his ego, I think his persona. I think it gave him even more swagger in a sense. Because after that happens, I mean, that's in the early May time frame of 2018 that Russell is murdered. I mean, it doesn't stop him. He goes out to Indiana and cons 2 women out there for cars and furniture and a dually, and then continues on with an old man, he got him for $250,000. So it just emboldened him. I think it just he thought it was like a feather in his cap, which is so fucking sick, to use somebody else's tragic demise to prop yourself up to make you feel bigger and better than you are. It just lended a whole lot of credibility to this bullshit story that he was in the mafia. Or he was connected. He is not connected. He is not in the mafia. His real last name is Schulte. He's just a giant piece of shit. So, sorry to go off on the tangent. I definitely want people to understand that Russell's murder was a tragic event, but it was not at the hands or even by, a head nod by, Ricky Dugo. So, and I feel terrible for you guys down at Lake of the Ozarks. My sincerest condolences. It sucks. Because I think Russell was trying to get somewhere with this, right? Russell had the balls to stand up to Ricky Dugo, at least on, social media. And I know that he went to the police. I know he went to the state's attorney. So I want to touch on that, Britt. Russell starts his, amateurish investigation late summer of 2017. He says in his post that he has an attorney. He says he's gone to the Missouri Attorney General's office, that they've opened a case. Does anybody from Missouri reach out to you?
Yes. Somebody... God, dude, what was his name?
I'm going to stop real quick. I'm going to stop and we're going to hit record again, all right? 1 second?
Okay.
While you're thinking, because I'm going to tell you his name.
I got it right here. Okay, go ahead.
It should be Anthony Williams, but I'm going to hit record. Hold on 1 second.
All right.
All right, so at some point, does Missouri and the authorities, does anybody contact you?
I don't remember if they contacted me. Russell texted me, I think it was July 2017, and asked me to call Anthony Williams at the Attorney General's office, I think or something. I don't know. So, he even told me his supervisor's name. The guy's supervisor there. And I think I called, I don't remember if I talked to him, but it seemed like nobody knew, or I can't remember how it went.
Sorry, man. We're going to do that part again. All right, hang on. All right, so Anthony Williams, did you reach out, or did he reach out to you, or did you reach out to him?
I think I called him. Is how Russell gave me his number. Anthony Williams. He gave me his number and his supervisor. Anthony Williams' supervisor. And I think I talked to him.
And what sort of questions was he asking?
Huh?
What sort of questions was Anthony asking you?
I think just about Dugo and what he did and who he was, but I don't remember a whole lot coming of it. Like, I don't think they even wanted anything to do with it.
It's so weird, right? Because there were so many people from Lake of the Ozarks that I believe at some point had talked to Anthony Williams from the Attorney General's office down there, and nothing happens with it. Are you guys frustrated down there? I mean, in hindsight, like let's just take a step back. I mean, obviously, I think you know the end result of where all of this goes. I know that you do.
Yeah.
But I mean, you guys did the right thing, right? I mean, you got a guy in Russell. Russell goes out, opens a case, hires an attorney. He's asking for the authorities to help. It sounds like Missouri, and again, this is something that chaps my ass. It sounds like Missouri didn't do what they were supposed to do. If they're asking questions, but then they're not doing anything with it, you guys kind of feel helpless down there?
Yeah. I don't know who else. I don't know anybody else from here that had a lot of money taken from them. Other than Russell and the other two guys, they were like $1,000 a piece or something, or one guy. I don't even know. So I don't know anybody else here, other than the buddy of mine he rented his house from. He don't care. He's over it, I think. So other than that, I don't know who else there is here, unless you do. But yeah, it's frustrating, which, I'll never get nothing back. But what Dugo's doing now, you did a great job getting him where he is. But it's, for what this guy has done over 40 years, that's fucking peanuts. He's in there. You know what I'm saying? He never deserves to come out again.
Well, there's no doubt.
So if I can help keep him there, and Missouri wanted to do something, I'd help him do it.
Yeah,
if there's any way. You know what I mean?
I do. No, I'm not saying that. I know for a fact that you've always been willing to assist in the investigation. You've always been very forthcoming with information. And it begs the question, obviously with Russell's tragic demise, what did Russell know? It's like, what did he take with him when he was murdered? Because his post was very specific, $2,043,500. How does that go missing, in the last 2 years? So he knew of some really big fish, right?
Yeah, he did. Yeah, Russell was like you, dude. He was a smart guy. He was going to figure it out. It sucks that he wasn't able to finish it, but yeah, it sucks that whatever he took with him, I don't know.
Right.
I don't know do you know any of the people I guess you don't?
I just know some of the folks. I've talked to some of the folks in his tattoo shop, and I had some correspondence in 2018 with Russell's fiance or girlfriend at the time, but I don't. And so it's always been like a mystery as who else is down there. But I just think it's a huge miss by the Attorney General down there. I'm so curious why they didn't investigate. I don't know if it was maybe people didn't want to cooperate, other than like people like you. Maybe some of the other people just didn't want their names in it. Maybe people were over it. But I just think I think anybody that goes to the police and hands them a list of people, that it should be investigated the right way. It took a lot in Illinois for me to do that same thing. It took 5 years, from the time I handed them, it was 4.5 years. So,
well, maybe they don't want to talk. It's fucking embarrassing. You give some guy like that money. And I was embarrassed too at first until I figured out what Rick was and met you and found out how good he was. I was like, well, fuck, it's not so bad. I'm not that fucking stupid. This dude was good.
That's
you know what I mean?
I do.
This fucking dude was good.
He was actually better than good.
Yeah. It's too bad that's what he focused his fucking energy on, ripping people off.
I totally agree. You know, that's really the long and short is after you get over that, you know, that you're ashamed, you know, that you're embarrassed. Now it's just like, you know what, fuck it, man, you know? Yeah, I got ripped off by one of the best con men that has ever come across, you know, the Midwest.
Wow.
I mean, I asked detectives point blank, you know, is this one of the biggest and baddest con men out there? And he reluctantly said in this area, he had not heard of anybody like him that was this successful, you know? Now, is some of this on us? Yeah, okay, fine, yeah. You know, yeah. But I mean, I didn't know he was a con man, and neither did you. So,
No.
you know, that's why we're having this conversation. You know, you've always been helpful. Spreading the word is so, you know, important. And, you know, when you take a step back and you get off your, you know, your high horse and you realize that, you know what, there's a lot of other people out there that should probably have this same sort of conversation, you know, where they just admit it and then they get over it and eventually you laugh about it. Because you know what, we're not in prison, you know, he is.
Right.
So, I agree with you. 8 years serving 4, really, in the end, he'll be serving about 3 with all of his credits. He'll be out before you know it. So how do we ensure, you know, it's like, how do we ensure, Britt, that he doesn't do this again, you know?
Right.
So
I do just so many more. There's got to be so many more people that could do something. You know what I mean?
well,
There's got to be more people. I wish if there was here that Russell was working on, they would come forward, at least so you know how big of a shitbag this guy was. And I guess you already know how big of a shitbag he is, but how many people, there was no limit to what he would do or say or amount of people he would fuck.
No. I agree with you, you know, with all of that. Russell was onto something. And so here's the interesting part about Russell's legacy, okay? And this I really haven't talked all that much about. But if Russell doesn't post what he posts in 2017, again, I get taken in the spring, summer of 2018. And if what happens to Russell doesn't happen, right? His tragic, his murder by a crazy person. And if somebody from Chicago, one of Rick's old good friends, doesn't go back in time, he had saved Russell's post. So he posted on the dirty. And then my coworker gets a Google alert when the dirty is posted. And that's posted like May 29th of 2018. And again, it's written in a dead man's words. It's Russell's post. So when you start to take a step back and look at how there's these crazy random moments that got us to where he is today. If Russell's original post isn't copied somehow, saved for another day, reposted out, a Google alert doesn't come to my coworker's phone, I don't know if any of this actually happens, right?
Right.
That's what's so nuts, is you have all of these different random events that have happened. So I think about stuff like that all the time. Russell started something. I think I was able to finish it. I don't know the guy. I never met him. But I hope that he's kind of like looking up at all of us and going, you guys did all right.
Right.
So, is there anything you want to kind of finish on? Is there anything that we didn't touch on that you wanted to say?
No, I mean, you got it all, dude. I mean, you did a great job figuring all this shit out. I admire your tenacity, dude. There's no way I could have done something like this. You know what I mean? Even though he took me for what he took me for, the shit you have done is crazy. And what Russell probably should have finished. You know what I mean? What he could have finished. And you guys would have had this fucking dude hanging from who knows. But you know what I mean?
Yeah, I would have loved the opportunity. to work.
You guys did a great job.
I appreciate that. But again, none of this happens if there aren't people like you that have helped me along the way. I mean, you and I started talking. You were actually a name on the list when I went to Lake County June 3rd of 2018. I mentioned you to Lake County. You and I had never talked before, but I had heard of your name. You were on my list to call. I ran out of time before that meeting, but in that meeting with Detective Bill Bang and Assistant District Attorney Fred Day, I do mention your name. You're on my letter that I wrote to them. So I'm just, I'm not discounting the hard work and tenacity. Obviously, there was a huge investment in time, not just by myself, but then you. You invested a lot of time in having conversations with me, and you still have these conversations with me, and I think that you're still having conversations with other people. So I'm super appreciative of the friendship, of being able to do this with you. I wish Missouri could have done this for you, that they would have been able to give you some sort of sense of, that they cared enough to go after him. But, we do have a result. It's not ideal, but, I'm not in prison. You're not in prison,
Right.
So,
I mean, if he does get out, when he does, he'll get out, I guess. I don't know. I saw a picture of him when he went in. He looked fucking terrible. He might not make it out. I don't know. But if he does, I would like to know where he goes, and I'd just like to go see him. I just want to look at him and see if he still looks like shit.
well,
he was so proud of how he, how he looked.
it was his image.
Arrogant image. It was his image. I hope he looks that bad when he comes out and he stays like that. He has nowhere to go in Chicago. He can't do nothing. Who's he going to scam?
Yeah.
At least in Chicago. I hope he has to sit in fucking Chicago. But does he have a parole or anything, or how's that work?
Yeah, I think he's got parole for a year. It's not a whole long, it's not that long a time. I really, the hope is with the podcast, I'll just throw it out there. We're coming upon 8,000 episode downloads, which is amazing. A lot of people are really enjoying the story. As much as you can enjoy hearing sad stories, it just reverberates the magnitude of who this guy is and what he was capable of doing on these rinse and repeat scams. But I don't think he'll have the ability to come back to Chicago without A, changing his name, B, changing his look. I think he's going to have to live a very quiet, semi-anonymous life. And that's the hope. Because this isn't like a get rich off of this show. This is a public service announcement. Look out for this guy. He is coming. He's coming out soon. Soon may be another, 2.5 years, but eventually he will be set back free into our community or your community or somewhere in Texas or Florida or wherever he ends up. And people need to know what he is, who he is. So, the goal is always to protect just one more person from falling prey. I don't think that Ricky Dugo has the ability to be anything else than a con artist.
Yeah, I don't think so either.
Would he have made a great car salesman or a salesman? Or
holy fucking shit, he could have sold anything.
Right. And that's what's so crazy is if the guy just would have gone legit, he would have retired a long time ago.
Yeah.
So, anything you want to wrap up with, Britt?
No, you did good, buddy. Just keep up the good work. Keep getting it out there.
Working on it. Start telling people about it down there, man. I could use your help in just spreading the gospel, Because, again, it didn't just happen in Chicago. It happened out there, too. Maybe people aren't talking about it, but he was all over, up and down the Lake of the Ozarks, fucking people over, so.
Yep, he was.
Cool. Well, you take care of yourself, man. I'll catch up with you soon.
All right, buddy. We'll see you.
Thanks for the time. Good day to you. Bye-bye.
It never ceases to amaze me how far and for how long Dugo would keep his victims on the hook. And in Britt's story, even after he is conned by Rick, the con man tries to keep him close by asking him to be the godfather to their youngest daughter. Obviously, Dugo has no shame in his game, and sadly, he was super successful in allegedly scamming the good folks down there in the Lake of the Ozarks for over $2.2 million. Coming up next, we will venture back to the city of Chicago and meet a man that was following the Ricky Dugo spoof page in late May of 2018. Another phony business opportunity for the tried and true car wash partnership is pitched. We will hear part 1 of his interview next.